Joining me is our weekly regular and new father, James Guzman, American-born writer, insurance broker specializing in non-conventional markets and countries, expat to Mexico, the founder of the Borderless blog and podcast, borderlessblog.com. And if you need some health insurance, borderlesshealthinsurance.com. What is...
Senor Hrvoje, how you doing? What's going on, man?
I'm doing all right. Can't complain.
Yeah. How's things in Croatia?
Nice. It's nice here. Tourists are pretty much seem to be gone for the most part, and things are just like usual.
Well, you're going to miss the Dia de Independencia down here in Mexico. We got that coming up this weekend. Just coming up here. So this should be, it's quite a big weekend.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that because I'm nowhere near Mexico. I guess the other good news is my kid, I think, is finally getting her U.S. citizenship or passport, but we still cannot go to America because unvaccinated. Mm-hmm. We have an unvaccinated foreign member of the family. So, anyways, we got one step closer. And how are the diapers coming along?
Yeah, everything's good. So now it's been a couple weeks, and so a little bit more sleep than in the beginning, and things are coming along. And baby's getting a lot bigger. You know what I mean? Getting big pretty quick. So I think we're going to be venturing outside the house with him for the first time here soon. So, but everything's going fine.
I mean, they get big, I guess, when you're feeding them all those tamales and tacos and, pozole and enchiladas. And now.
Speaking about eating, just a couple hours ago, my dog ate a whole bottle of this baby cream that you put on the baby. The dog grabbed it and ate the whole thing and then threw up everywhere. So that wasn't, the glamorous life of James Guzman over here. This is what I have to deal with.
Well, that's better than your baby eating the baby cream. I thought I'd get your. I don't know if you've seen. I still haven't had time to hear. Andrew Tate has been in the news. He's been deplatformed. Apparently, he just. A lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. You tweeted something about Patrick Bet-David of Valuetainment, which is a great resource and channel. I followed them from the beginning when he just went from nothing and exploded. He had a lot of resources to put behind that. And apparently we saw Russell Brand yesterday or the day before announced he's doing an exclusive live stream show only on Rumble. Now we see Patrick Bet-David. I think his first Rumble only interview episode was with Andrew Tate. And so, I mean, it's interesting now we're seeing this shift. And I think as a result, some of the other platforms like YouTube are maybe censor. I have a sense that they're censoring a little bit less because they're starting to see people jumping ship. And any thoughts on Andrew Tate or sort of this jump to Rumble and other platforms?
Well, I've been waiting for people to. I get the idea of YouTube's obviously the biggest player in the video game. The individual put up individual videos. I guess a lot of people get big on TikTok, nowadays that seems to be where everybody's getting these little snackable, 10, 15 second videos or whatever. That's how Tate got big, I'm pretty sure. I've just been waiting because, I used to do a lot of stuff on YouTube, and then I was just getting, I've gotten all kinds of different strikes and, take down your video and you never know why or what. It just seemed ridiculous to me. And it's like, why is everybody still using this platform? We all know it sucks. And I understand you want to get traction and all that stuff, but we do have other options. And it's just taken a lot. I guess it takes, a lot longer for people to catch on these types of new technologies, platforms, things that you can do. It takes a lot longer than I expect, people to. It's just been years. And so, I think slowly but surely people might be moving over to other things. I remember in the early days of YouTube, it was great. You could jump on there and see all kinds of crazy stuff out there, different opinions, conspiracy things. And whatever you want, you know what I mean? And that was what was fun about it and interesting. And that's what makes the internet fun. And, now, they're trying to turn into this corporate thing, basically like regular TV, but like a DVR, it's like where they just have, if you search for anything, it's like CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, it all comes up at the top. And, that's just not interesting. That's not what people want. I mean, and, they're just trying to turn into this homogenized kind of corporate thing. And, it's boring. So, let's move on to something else. I think Odyssey is pretty good. Rumble's all right. And there are some others that people have tried out, but whatever, we can try all different ones. And I never understood why everybody feels like beholden to YouTube. You don't even make that much money. I mean, I've had a lot of views, a lot of videos on YouTube, and you make very little. It's like, I don't know. I just don't think it's worth it. So, if you're monetizing on YouTube just from the regular YouTube monetization, I think it's a big ripoff. You might as well just learn how to get affiliates, learn how to make your own white labeled products, have some sort of a course, have some other things that you offer, because the monetization that they offer you is horrible. So, you can get kickstarted on YouTube. It doesn't even give you the same. Back in the day, I used to be able to put up a video and I could easily get, 25, 30,000 views on just a video on my phone walking around years ago. And, not even that good of quality, not with the microphone or anything. And now it's hard, it's hard for me to get that. I don't know whether it's, something with the algorithms, they don't tell you exactly how the game works, but it's just not, another thing is, it's like, why build up something? It takes a lot of time and effort. I mean, just as much as everybody else, doing a podcast, doing videos, putting out regular content. We spend a lot of time. I mean, as people are listening to this, when it's pre-recorded stuff, especially, we go to edit it. It takes at least double, triple the time that you hear. It takes, for us to get ready for it and publish it. We got to spend money on server space. So, we're spending all this time and extra effort, and then we're building up this platform for something like YouTube, where, they can just use our energy to build up an audience and then kick us off. I mean, this is a shitty deal here. So, I think people should definitely be moving on. I'm happy to see that. So as far as, Patrick Bet-David's cool guy. I knew some people that worked for him when he was in Dallas, and, they said it was, had a good company there. So definitely it's the insurance company, but it's like a different style that he used to grow. It's kind of like a MLM and insurance company mixed. But anyways, he's most popular for his YouTube channel, Valuetainment. And he's had some pretty good interviews, I think, definitely. But this one, I think he definitely stuck his neck out, and he said, okay, let's give Andrew Tate a chance here, see what he has to say. And he did a 5-hour interview that was released yesterday, and he read out all the criticisms, word for word, the quotes that people are using against him, and he allowed him to take all the time that he wanted to explain himself. And I think that's good. That's what we want. And I gotta say, I listened to it. I was, last night I thought, like, well, let me listen to a little bit of this, but I was such an engaging conversation. I've listened to the whole thing already, the whole 5 hours, believe it or not. So I thought it was great. I think it's definitely worth listening to. They made a lot of good points. Andrew Tate's a very engaging speaker. I've known about him for a while. He's been on the scene, but I always thought of him kind of like a pickup artist type guy, not a big deal. But I thought they really got into some of his, his personal values and stuff, and his life with his upbringing with his father. And I thought it was very interesting. So, I mean, I did not really disagree with anything he said on that interview. So that's, I thought it was, it's worth checking out.
I was just thinking, your Mexican friends and neighbors are probably like, oh, poor James, he didn't get any sleep last night from, the kid. And he's like, no, I was watching 5 hours of interview with Andrew.
Well, I was in bed with the baby, and I sitting there anyways. So I was watching, I watched that, but it was very engaging. I mean, I was like not getting tired. A lot of times when I'll listen to podcast or something, I'll get tired and fall asleep. But the conversation was so engaging. I was just awake listening to it, you know?
Yeah, it seems like are they trying to outdo each other now? Joe Rogan is like 3 to 4 hour podcast, and now Patrick Bet-David's like let's do 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 hour, 20.
It's really amazing that we talk about everybody has such low attention spans, like attention span of a goldfish, and we look at all this stuff with TikTok and all this, but at the same time, people have very long attention spans for long interviews, stuff like you're saying. People do live streams for like 10, 20 hours. It's crazy. Some live streams. And also you have the rise of like series. If you look at what a lot of people watch on Netflix and all this stuff, they're long series, very long series. So there are people that, so at the same time, people are, on social media are going through, one after another, scrolling through their timeline very quickly. Seem like they have a short attention span. They have some sort of a long attention span for, these long form podcasts and stuff. I mean, there's never been, I can't think of it ever in the past that they had a popular interview for 5 hours, that people would actually sit there and watch.
Yeah, I was going to say, just as we speak, Wheezy, who's been a guest of mine on TNT, is interviewing. He just got on the Rockfin. He's interviewing Charlie Robinson, the macro aggressions, which I think is like on a number 2 podcast spot in the U.S. But his record is 8 hours, so he's probably going to be pushing Charlie to chat for like 3, 4, 5 hours. But the monetization, as well as you say, YouTube, it's totally not worth it these days unless you're hitting like a huge amount of views. I think the most I ever got was my biggest interview was with Jim Rogers, and I got like 150,000 views, and I got like $400, and that was just some years ago. Yeah. But I don't even monetize my YouTube anymore. I turn it off, even though I can turn it on, because I use sponsors now. So I'd rather get money from sponsors than this pittance from. No, actually, I'm getting more. I am monetizing through private sponsors versus ads from YouTube and making much more. So
let me say something about that. I never understand why people want to go with the YouTube monetization, or sometimes with the podcast monetization, but they offer very little. Or another thing is with Amazon, you can like recommend Amazon books, but you make so little. And all these, Google ads is another one. All these things suck, so what you're better off doing is, if you know anybody, or if you know somebody in the niche that you have, or some company that you use, then, go to their website, talk to somebody that lives there, see if you can set up an affiliate program. A lot of people are going to be open to affiliate programs. If you'd make content in any way, you're going to make a lot more. Okay. I'm telling you make a lot more. Just tell them, if everybody I send to you, it's not going to be a sale, but they would not get that client in the past. So this is going to be a sale that they would not have. So if they give you a certain percentage, whatever it is, a lot of times with info products, it can be up to 50%. So half the sales price can go right to you. Normally with other types of things, maybe 20% or less. And just do it that way. And another thing I was going to say is, all these people that when they use, what is the name of the Patreon and other types of things, even Substack, to be honest with you. I mean, why don't you just have your own website? You know what I mean? Like, build your own website. Then you don't have to worry about, getting taken down, that getting taken down. Get your email list, get all of your followers on an email list. They can't take your email list away from you, and just build your own thing. I mean, that's what I've been doing for more than 10 years. I always had my own website, my own email list. And I've never had, been beholden to any monetization or anything like that. I never understood why people would do that. You make so much more money and you have so much more control just doing it yourself. And it's not hard to do. So, if you make content, that's what you should be doing.
All right. I totally agree. And I thought I'd bring up this account. I think it's also a podcast. I think you've been a guest on their podcast, My Latin Life, on Twitter. And I've found it a fantastic resource. And some of the tweets are hilarious and true. You've got, I'll just read a couple. He says, some are very serious, like he talks about getting multiple passports and all these different things that you want to do. He says, research every citizenship by descent you can possibly get. For some countries, it's even possible to go back to great-grandparents to claim citizenship. He says, live in Latin America, drink $1 beers, save 50% of your income, and have 10 kids. And it's like, yeah, you could actually do that. My favorite was the American dream in 2022 is to have enough money to move to Mexico. And another was, this was so true. North America, people want dogs. Latin America, people want children. And so maybe if we could talk a bit more about, the whole digital nomadism. I had two folks yesterday for 2 hours on TNT talking about just middle class people from the States. And they just made a quick jump. They've been living a year now in Mexico, and it was so easy. They got their temporary residency, they rented a place, and that's it. They're doing fine. So, thoughts in this space?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that with the Borderless podcast, I've been talking about for like 10 years or more. And yeah, it's something, it's definitely something that's obviously a lot more accessible to people because of technology and travel and, being able to work online and stuff like that. What I've always kind of thought is that, again, like I was saying, it's taking a lot longer for people to catch up with, getting on these new platforms, and they don't have to be. I think it's kind of the same with other countries too. I mean, if you see now a lot of people in the United States, they move to Florida, they're moving to Texas, they're moving to Tennessee or wherever, the low tax states with better climate. Well, I don't know when it's going to dawn on them that, actually you can pay even lower taxes and have a lower cost of living and have an even better climate outside of the United States. And so I think that's going to, come across a lot of people's mind, and they're going to realize how easy it is, especially, so Mexico is an easy option. A lot of people go to Brazil, Argentina, Panama, a lot of different places in Latin America. And, just to kind of illustrate it, there's a study that's been making the rounds lately saying, oh, look, this does prove that if you make, there's a lot of people that say you make $75,000. There's studies that say if you make $75,000 a year, that's kind of where where they do these studies on happiness. Then that's where all of a sudden people become more content. And then it kind of goes up a bit from there. Not too much, but it does go up from there. That basically, when people say money doesn't buy happiness, well, if you around $75,000, if you're in the United States, it usually makes you pretty content with your life. Okay. Well, if there's two different things you can do. So, I mean, you can make $75,000, which you can definitely try to do that. And that's great. Another thing is you can shift that bar down. So, I would say that bar would go down to maybe $40,000 or something like that. In Latin America, a lot of Latin American countries, you can live just fine. You can live a similar life and maybe even better, like I said, better weather and freer in a lot of different ways and all that. And, you're content. You can pay all your bills. You're not going to be in debt. You don't have to worry about medical bills bankrupting you, and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, if that makes you happy, if you think that, then not in that instance, it's not just money that'll make you happy, but also lowering your bottom line. Right. And so, it's something that I think will cross a lot of people's minds. There's this movement, the FIRE, financial independence, retire early. And, I think that's a good thing to think about. And basically, they say that you need to think about the number of, meaning the amount of money that you need in order to live off of the dividends and live off your investments. Well, I mean, again, it's the same thing. So, if you can cut your living expenses in half, then that will, decrease the amount of time that you can be financially free in half. And then that doesn't mean you do nothing. There are a lot of things that you can do with your life, but that you don't have to worry about, not being able to pay the bills or getting kicked down the street or whatever. And so, I think it's a strategy I've always been trying to kind of get people to understand and help people with. And I think that probably it's going to be an ongoing thing. And, another thing about it is we talked about third culture kids before, and with basically somebody that's raised in between two different cultures. I think that there's going to be a lot more of those type of people that are just, in the world that are just kind of used to living in cosmopolitan areas, or, not necessarily in one specific culture, and that's it. And so they're more comfortable. They have no problem transitioning. You know, like myself, I had no problem moving around, going to Spain, going here, going to the Caribbean, whatever. It's fine for me. It's not a big deal. And I think more and more people are going to be like that in the future. So you'll probably see a lot more of this.
You had no problem transitioning, James? I'm just kidding. I'm being silly. Yesterday, we had on Randy from Soundwave Productions, and he and his wife moved down to Quintana Roo, and they were paying in California like $2,200 rent. It's like that's 44,000 pesos. And I'm just thinking, for example, in Guadalajara, I mean, there are people that I know that pay 20,000 pesos a month rent, which for me is too high, but 44,000 pesos for that amount of money in Mexico, you could have like a palace, and they're just getting the usual sort of place. And I think now you can get something for about 10,000 pesos a month, $500. I think they said they were paying like $700. So, just that cost of living. And I did want to read a few more. I love his tweets. He said, for example, if you make My Latin Life, if you make $5,000 a month in the U.S., you're barely getting by. If you make $5,000 a month in Latin America, I honestly don't know how you'd spend it all. He goes to say, in America, people live to work. In America, people live to work, and in Latin America, people work to live. Again, I find that to be true as an American and as a Mexican. He says, take a $300 flight to lower your cost of living by thousands. And I think this is also an interesting point. Every country sucks. I agree. Some countries just suck less for certain things. And so, and he talks a lot about remote work, and a lot more of us can be doing that for now. And so, and as you said,
last time I spoke to him, he was in Guadalajara. Last time I spoke to him, he was in Guadalajara. So I don't know if he's still there or not. A few months ago.
But you were also hitting an interesting point earlier that people are catching up. I just find it kind of amusing. I mean, I've been doing this my whole life, but moving around the planet, and all these people now flooding into Mexico with their eyes wide, and it's just funny to see this trend now. And it's like, I'm just sitting here with my sombrero and, tacos and the tequila, and just watching all these gringos, pouring in. It's just, it's funny. And so there are some other interesting developments in Mexico. A few, we had, who was it? Julian Assange's brother, Gabriel Shipton. He just tweeted he was just in Mexico City, and he and Julian's father, John, I think Gabriel is like his half brother or step brother or something, but they received from the Mexico City's mayor, Claudia Sheinbaum, the keys to the city that were given to Julian Assange, and they accepted it on his behalf. So I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, Mexico on one hand does see, and Evo Morales of Bolivia is also just now in Mexico, and he was thanking on Twitter, Mexico for basically saving his life. And so it's in an interesting way, Mexico is a destination for dissidents. Julian Assange, Evo Morales, and many others. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a nice gesture. I don't know what that's how's that gonna help him if he gets out. Maybe he can come to Mexico, but maybe they need to give him a key to actually get him out of the cell. I think that's what he needs. But I mean, it's a nice gesture. It's funny that that they're painting it as like this progressive thing. I mean, that's the thing so weird in today's political landscape. Is it really like progressive? Is Julian Assange progressive? I mean, I don't really consider him that. I mean, and so. The Claudia Sheinbaum, I think it's interesting to point out. I mean, she's really coming up. She's also in the running up to be the next president, the next leader in Morena party. She's a Jewish woman. Her parents are from Eastern Europe. She is a big time uh, green energy person. I mean, she got her PhD at Berkeley, and basically her whole career has been about avoiding CO2 and how do we redesign these green systems and and all this type of stuff. So that's that's definitely her her reason for being there. And so we'll see how she goes, but I think she's an up and coming star to keep your eye on.
There were, I agree as well. There are two other interesting developments. On the one hand, we had Blinken, the Secretary of State in the U.S., I believe, visit Mexico, and he's invited Mexico to join semiconductor production effort. So this high-level delegation invited Mexico to participate in a push to shift semiconductor production from Asia to North America and expand production of electric vehicles. That I'm not a fan of, but maybe semiconductors. And Marcelo Ebrard, the Mexican Foreign Affairs Secretary, spoke with Blinken and AMLO about passing legislation that would provide $28 billion in incentives for semiconductor production, $10 billion for new manufacturing of chips, and $11 billion for research and development. So this is one, I think, positive sign. In I was chatting with someone recently, like the My Latin Life guy said, every country sucks, some in different ways, but in terms of energy and like resources, I think Mexico is doing very well. This subsidies on energy keep prices low. We've got gasoline, we've got silver, we've got agave, tequila, agriculture, food, lithium. Now they're now talking about bringing semiconductor production to Mexico. We've got the auto manufacturers. I think there is in Guanajuato, if I'm not mistaken, like Volkswagen. And so in terms of all of this, there's a lot going for Mexico now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the semiconductor thing, I mean, that just makes sense. They've had all these problems with semiconductors, really jammed up the works with things in the United States, as computers and other vehicles and things like that. And so, yeah, it would make sense that they want to start doing that in this hemisphere. As we've talked about before, that I think that things will kind of, in the coming decades, things will be shifting more towards this hemisphere rather than having it such a global economy. It will be a little less globalized, and that would mean that Mexico and the United States will be trading a lot more, and we're seeing that in the latest numbers that Mexico and the United States, they're very close to number one, number two biggest importers and exporters. So very dependent on each other, which would make sense, right? So right next to each other, and they complement each other, the economies. And they have a lot of lithium and things like that. That's going to be really big and in the upcoming years. So it's interesting, and it doesn't surprise me at all that they're going to start doing that here. And so they just got to somehow get a hold. The thing with Mexico, they got to get a hold of the security problem, because a lot of companies aren't going to be happy with mining whatever, or having their facilities here. If they're going to get robbed, or if the local population is just going to decide that they want to kick them out or something like that. So it's it can be volatile, and that's not going to be good for long term.
Just another piece of news related to what we were talking about, Blinken's visit and the semiconductors. So during that same time, I found this on the Telegram. There's footage, and it talks about scenes of chaos and mayhem appearing on Mexican social media as Mexican journalists report how there were armed clashes between the Marines, aided by local security forces, federal police, probably cops, maybe National Guard, and narco terrorists from Jalisco New Generation Cartel in Veracruz, and that the city actually triggered Code Red, meaning that the entire population should immediately seek shelter. You could see civilians in videos published, civilians, schools being evacuated. as there were clashes between, according to this post, CJNG sicarios and Marines, causing panic among locals. Apparently, the narcos wanted to impose a siege on the city. But it's interesting this happens during Blinken's visit. And so I think there's a lot of deep politics going on behind the scene. I haven't had time to listen to, but some really good Mexican analysts that I listen to, like Ruben Luengas, talking about how this militarization of Mexico, maybe some of the stuff behind it is really, it's the U.S. empire, and they're trying to get to the resources in Mexico, like lithium and other stuff. And so there we see all these clashes and militarization and other things. So there are some, I feel, games of empire being played. It's difficult to unpack and figure out how the mechanism of how this is going on, but I don't think this is not just some senseless violence. What's sort of your reaction to this?
Yeah, I don't know what happened here, but I mean, it's hard for me to say what if whether it has something to do with that or not. I mean, we know that AMLO just went back on what he had been saying during the whole time up until now, and that he would not militarize the police, and so he created the Guardia Nacional, the National Guard, and they're now going to be under the control of the army, and so that is in effect militarization, which is what Calderon was the one that kicked off the drug war in Mexico did, and so a lot of people are pointing that out, and whether that's some sort of a plot or whether that's just kind of the end result. If when you're in charge and you try all these different things, and then basically you're just like, I don't know, I guess we'll just let the army go for it because this isn't working, and it's hard for me to say. I really don't know, but either way, I mean, yeah, it's and also I don't know whether it's good or not, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of people are saying this is it's a really bad thing to have a centralization of the police and militarization, all this, but whether that's better or worse for going after the cartels, I honestly couldn't really tell you. I'm not an expert in that field as far as who's better at combating these situations. So I guess we just have to see how it plays out. But it's just seems to be going on, and there's not much going, not much happening to stop it. I don't think AMLO's regime has been very good at toppling the narco violence. So, I think people are going to want something different. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's hard to make sense out of that. And I thought another important clip. Juan Grillo, him. He's been on Joe Rogan. I've interviewed him. I think we both disagree with his politics on guns, but
for sure.
he did tweet a clip from AMLO where apparently Felix Gallardo, some, I guess, higher up narco jefe de jefes is his nickname, I guess. AMLO referring to him, saying, "The señor is truly in bad health. He has many illnesses and he can't be treated in prison." This is AMLO in his mañanera, the morning 5-hour talks that he gives instead of doing other things. But anyways, a judge has granted Felix Gallardo to be moved to house arrest, and AMLO said he has to be cared for in a house with his family. This sort of, if you put some of this stuff together, where the way he's speaking, AMLO, his hugs, not bullets policy for narcos, he does seem to be kind of tight with the narcos in this sense. And I think, as you're saying earlier, it's the solution. I mean, I've interviewed, now I'm even forgetting his name. I'm getting a brain fart. Who's that famous guy? The other guy that was on Joe Rogan. I can't believe I forgot his name. Complete brain fart. The
Ed
former
Calderon?
Mexican cop. Ed Calderon, unbelievable. Ed Calderon, I mean, who worked in the field, says there's no real solution, realistically going forward at the moment. And so But I still don't kind of think it's good to snuggle up to the cartels either. But if the power structure is as it is in this deep state, where you've got the cartels and the government just welded together. Any other thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, as far as that, I don't know. The guy's about to die, so he's allowing him to go home and get treated at home. And I don't. A lot of people, they're saying, one of his biggest things was that he tortured Kiki Camarena. Well, he completely denies that, whether that's true or not. So yeah, I don't know if he deserves to die in a cell by himself, in agony, or what I mean. He spent pretty much the whole rest of his life in jail. Personally, I don't think it's a big deal. It's like, it's his call. It doesn't really offend me whether he wants to let this guy go, before he dies or not. I mean, he did get his partner arrested here recently. So, I mean, he did throw a bone to the United States there. So, yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say about
it. Something interesting you may have seen that just kind of caught my attention was eleconomista.com.mx publishing an article how the Mexico State Ministry, this is going back to the Great Reset in Mexico, the State Ministry of Economy has signed a collaboration agreement with the Global Compact Mexico. And under this agreement, compliance with the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, established in the 2030 Agenda 2030, the Mexico Global Compact, will be promoted in collaboration with Mexican companies because sustainability is a competitive necessity and allows them to be more profitable and resilient. And it goes on to say the UN Global Compact has more than 15,000 companies in 160 countries, 70 local networks. And then it goes on to say academia has an important role to play in meeting the objectives of the 2030 Agenda, including, since there are institutions in the state, in Mexico, such as the Tecnológico de Monterrey.
Yeah, of course.
Which is my former, where I used to work. And I've been saying this for a long time now. It's a globalist institution. And here you are, the Tec de Monterrey, the leading, one of the leading areas, academia in Mexico, leading the charge on Agenda 2030 in Mexico. Yeah, that's just crazy. And so, and just from being there, they forced all the kids to participate in Model UN. They pushed all of the globalism. They pushed the fourth industrial revolution like mad. Something interesting. I heard from a friend recently in Mexico that in my former place of employment, the Tec de Monterrey, again, this is rumors, I don't know, but apparently 5 teachers have had heart attacks. So, because, everyone was obligated, to be injected. And so, anyway, so, yeah. Any thoughts on the Great Reset in Mexico or anything else or this?
Yeah, no, I mean, this Global Compact, Mexico, and obviously the Agenda 2030. I mean, we're not in favor of this, so it's just not. It's just happening, everywhere. I think that it's not going to be instated as much as they would like to be in a place like Mexico or throughout Latin America, because they're still pretty much getting on their feet with a lot of basics. But they're still moving forward with all this kind of stuff. And speaking of that, also, it's kind of weird. We're talking about AMLO. That whole administration seems to be, it's a mixed bag. You know what I mean? As we've talked about a lot. And when you talk about the UN and all this type of stuff, I mean, the newest thing that AMLO said is that as far as the Russia-Ukraine deal, is that he wants to organize a meeting from Russian and Ukrainian officials along with the Pope and the UN to come to an agreement here. Now, I'm not in no favor of the UN. I'm no favor of the Pope and, all this. But, I mean, they do need to come to an agreement here. That would be the solution to stop this craziness, not just sending them guns and egging the whole thing on. So in a way, that's the right solution. But at the same time, they do strategically kind of play ball with these organizations and with these ideas of sustainable development and the UN and all this type of stuff. So it's a mixed bag. So it's hard to read. And at the end of the day, I just think that an economy like Mexico and a lot of the ones that are in Latin America, they just don't have the centralized ability to push this type of legislation down through the economy as much as they do in other more developed countries.
And speaking of SDGs, there was another story I found in one of my homes as a digital nomad and international man, as Doug Casey talks about. By the way, Matt and Doug put out a great podcast today, which I listened to earlier. And Jalisco, the state that has proposed internal Soviet passports, vaccine requirement for entering or exiting, which had been proposed. They are having their first case of ecocide for cutting down a tree. I think someone may be imprisoned for 6 months. I guess it's a special kind of tree or protected area or something. So here we are. That's the green agenda, cutting down the special tree. There's more rights for trees than there are for all of the countless humans that are being killed and decapitated and dissolved in barrels of acids all around us in Mexico. But the tree needs to be protected. And all of these criminals that kill, they get a slap on the wrist. They go spend the night in jail, and then they're let off. The people who, I can't even live in the house normally. 3 times robbed, had my house raided. And, even if the robber had been caught, he would have been let go. So it's crazy. Ecocide. Seriously.
It was like the thing you sent me with the dog. Somebody poisoned a dog and they got 7 years in jail or something.
Yeah. All right. Best place to find you, James.
Yeah. Borderlessblog.com, jamesguzman.com. And if you need global health insurance, check me out at borderlesshealthinsurance.com. Thanks again for having me on. Talk to you next week.
We'll talk next week. Keep practicing with those diapers and don't feed the kid too many tamales and tacos. They'll get too big too quick. All right. We will, definitely do check out borderlessblog.com. And we'll be right back after this break here on TNT Radio.